Welcome to Giving You More Than Numbers, CAS's business support podcast, your go-to resource for practical business advice and expert insights.
Earlier on, we spoke about potentially the need to keep that data as real time as we can. And on the back of COVID, I think one of the biggest progressions in that accounting and financial management has been cloud accounting. How have you seen that make the year-end processes easier? Or have you seen it make year-end processes easier?
I have, because I use a certain accounting.
Happy for you to name zero.
Certain accounting for accounts and tax.
Yes, yeah.
And it imports directly into Zero, so it saves me time keying in a trial balance. Saves me so much time. And I think with COVID, it helped the industry move forward with cloud accounting.
I think we're one of the biggest disrupting industries now to break the cycle of that service industry around business. Solicitors are still way behind, I think. As
all you consider, if COVID hadn't happened, how long it would be for us to implement.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be where we are today. And even with the advancement in technology, it's at a rapid pace.
Yeah.
I'd go a bit further than that. I think it's completely transformed the way that accountants work. Because,
or it should change the way.
Well, no, it has already.
Yeah.
There's further to go. I mean, once AI technology gets going, there's going to be another shift.
Yes.
And the likes of Xero and QuickBooks and, well, we won't talk much about Sage because they're so far behind, but the point is there's going to be another shift. But we've already seen that to a place that, one, it means that we've got real-time information all the time, which has really helped not just for the year-end process, but it's helped for clients during the year. If they need a mortgage or something like that, we're able to give them real-time information. I was saying, come back to us in 2 weeks when we've got all of this information.
Yeah.
So for us, I think cloud has just completely transformed the way that we do business and our clients do business. It's just helping them to get on board with it.
It is. I think that, and that's a big shift because that's a change in mentality of people that, with the greatest respect, never set up a business to solely deal with and worry about finances. We're always going to be at the bottom of the thought process, and it's, my year ends next week. Where actually, if we can shift that mindset into getting people to embrace that technology, it's going to help them all the way through from that receipt capture.
Yeah. Can I give you an example?
Yeah,
I think it's doing really well. So we recently took over working with a charity, and what we found when we went in there was the finance person was a full-time role, and when we looked into seeing exactly what they were doing on this, yes, they had got cloud technology in place, which was great. We thought this is fine, but what we then found out was they were still pinning in all the receipts and writing them all up and doing them all themselves. Not only that, they were keeping all the papers. They got absolutely piles of paper everywhere, and it's like very quickly we were able to just kind of educate them. I mean, we're predicting that 5-day-a-week job is now 2 to 3 days tops, simply because of very simple changes of them adapting to understand cloud and everything that is in it, because it's not just Xero, QuickBooks and that. It's all to do with
it's the processing.
It's the processing and Dexter or whatever other software that you're actually using and how they all interact. And that's what us as accountants, it's a new role. We never knew we were going to be technical people, but now we are having to explain to people. But once they see it,
I've got
please as well.
Thank you for that, John. I have a client, accountant, ran his business, and he had SageLine 50. So every time he would be inputting the invoices into SageLine 50, then moving it on to another system, and he said, I go on holiday and I really get concerned because of cash flow and I can't chase. And I said, well, try cloud accounting Xero. And he was a bit skeptical because he was worried about, people hacking in and whatever. And I said, they're more likely to hack into your standalone system than on Xero, because Xero is such a large organization with security. But it saved him a third of his time because invoices are automatically produced on Xero. Reconciliation, he didn't have to put in the bank statements. It was automatically there. He could go on holiday, log in, sort out the cash, what was coming in, what was going out, never looked back.
No, I think if we kind of work backwards a little bit for us, so as a business, we're instrumental in getting people onto that cloud journey. And we often talk about what are the quick wins when you move to cloud accounting, and cash flow has been intimated earlier on. But the biggest difference we found, other than that accessibility and real time from your perspective, for us supporting the business owner in that day-to-day transactional stuff, is getting paid. That ability from a cloud invoice to be able to have open banking and pay it via a direct home banking link, or collect that invoice automatically by direct debit, or even pay on a credit card, fundamentally has changed the way businesses now transact. But you can't take that unless you transition into those cloud systems. So yeah, we talk about the need for better data. Once you're in the cloud space, that data is suddenly there. So actually, and I guess for you as accountants, you're doing that year-end piece. You want to check that something's been popped into the right category code. Let's not get technical and talk about nominals and this sort of thing, into the right category code, because it's a large value. There may be a question mark, can that become an asset? Well, actually, if you're using cloud to its truest, you're able to then view that document inside the accounting system, instead of, I guess, that phone call that says, can you scan me over or email me over a copy of that invoice? And has that made a big difference for you in terms of making sure they're maximizing those allowances for themselves?
I think for finding information, it's a lot easier to actually do that, because we can just click into the particular place and the invoice is there to be seen. So I've got no doubt that has made a difference. I think it's also really important to let people know that the cloud account, if you're not used to cloud accounting, it's intelligent software. So the majority of the time when you do take a photo of a receipt and it goes in, it will correctly put it into the category it's supposed to go. But it's not foolproof. And we will always say that. And even when AI takes over the world, this is from sound right, okay, it will still have that. It will need us human touch to be able, because everything's not 100% perfect and errors can be made. So, but time saving is
it's used. We use the line with we're doing a lot of work with YMCAs in transitioning those from desktop software into the cloud. And whilst in that charity sector, yes, there is a potential cost saving, we try to position that, because you don't like to see people lose jobs on the back of this, but we can redeploy that resource into something that adds far more value. And we're finding that internally, that the data entry part of that accounting role, not necessarily accountants, but that accounts processing, adding invoices and receipts. If we automate that using AI and machine learning, we transition, and we've done this internally. Our team are now data verifiers and are now starting to work with that data to provide a greater insight to the clients on things like average spend, average invoice values, stuff that really does add value, that supports what the accountant does. So again, if we're not embracing those, I'm going to call it an ecosystem, to coin the phrase of both of the major players, Xero and QuickBooks, talk about an ecosystem of apps. It's, can you remove human touch points in things that can be automated, because that's suddenly going to give us and afford us that time saving, which can be translated into going and doing more business or putting more money on the bottom line, depending on which way. Or actually, and this is one that was only brought to my attention, I don't need to spend 3 hours on a Saturday morning. I can go and watch my kids play football. And I thought that was a real significant reason for adopting cloud. The byproduct for them was better advice from you. But I can go and watch my kid play football on a Saturday morning instead of spending 3 hours in front of a computer. That spoke volumes for me.
Paul, I think that it's not just a benefit for accountants, it's a benefit for the business owners as well.
For me, it's got to be a benefit for the business first. Yes, we need it, but as accountants, you've dealt with whatever you've been supplied in the past. But yes, we want this transition into the cloud sphere, because then you can give better, more concise and actually real-time advice. Can I buy? Should I do? You can log in and go, yes. And John, you're talking about mortgage statements. It's dead easy, isn't it? Because it's all there. The proof is very much there.
The thing is, Paul, as we know, it's lovely having the invoice attached when you record it, because I know of a story you told me with the VAT inspection.
Yeah.
Where normally, it would take a day, 2 days, because they were writing through files of invoices, where now they can just click into the particular expense, click on the invoice, and it's there. And it just, I think cloud saves time. And I think of as another way with bank reconciliation. Yeah. I've got one client that I'm trying to move to cloud. And they have to record the bank statements into the system first and then reconcile. Where with cloud, it's automatic.
It's that auto feed in, isn't it? It's that auto ability to connect to your bank, drop your statement in real time. But yeah, Andy, that VAT and John, I know you've not heard this. We had a client that bought a van, is in engineering, and his accountant he sees once a year. It's based overseas. Family, friends. So actually we kind of support that little bit of day to day. And he rung me all of a panic. I bought this van, which had triggered a VAT refund. Genuinely not a problem. And normally HMRC, we'll give you the refund. But because this was so unusual, it triggered an inspection. Yeah. So the VAT inspector turned up at his unit, checked for the van, checked for the other bits of kit he'd claimed in the past, came round to our office. He is on QuickBooks, but we use Dex alongside QuickBooks to capture that data. The inspector had said, can you show me the purchase invoice for the van? Popped it up on the screen. Oh, wow. Can you show me the next 4 biggest invoices? And she'd highlighted them on the VAT audit report. Yeah, here they are. 5 sales invoices. She was there 20 minutes for a VAT inspection because everything was spot on. So again, another benefit of that, using that and adopting that technology, is if you do get the VAT inspections, they are no longer scary. You're not going to get a team of 3 or 4 coming and actually trawling through everything. And yeah, she was in and out in 20 minutes and half a cup of coffee was still on the table. So
as John found out, he said, you don't need to space anymore. Yeah, the invoices, they're already on the system now.
Although in saying that, one of my businesses complained that his energy costs had gone up because he'd emptied his loft of 14 years of paper. And so everything was escaping out of he had to relag his loft.
Well, there we go. There's sustainability somewhere in there.
There is, absolutely. And we're all about sustainability. Yes. Yeah. And so we've spoken about the benefits of cloud, but have you got, we do specialist migrations, but if you're advising your clients that we've got over the hurdle of them seeing the benefit of shifting to the cloud, what type of things do they need to look out for, or that do you look out for when you're in that transition from manual desktop shoebox into the cloud? That if people are thinking about doing it themselves, and we love the tele adverts, they're our best friend because we potentially, if you get it wrong, go in and clean it all up. And so always appoint a specialist correctly at the time to help you. But what type of things do you look out for?
I think you've hit the button there. I think the biggest problem and the biggest threat, and the reason people won't go to cloud, is because of the rubbish that they're actually putting in the first place. Yeah. Because as much as we'd love to think that it's all accurate, it's not, and they haven't actually got the information to put into the cloud in the first place. So I think that's the biggest hurdle for anybody going in, and therefore I would say appoint someone like yourself, Paul, or your team to actually do that transition. You've done it for one of my clients in the past, and it kind of, and they were just delighted because suddenly the pain had completely gone away. Yeah. So are we looking out for anything specific? I guess it's what tends to happen is we find things that, what do they say? Something in the wardrobe that, that comes out and you think, oh, hang on a minute, what's this? and think, yeah, that was something from 1964. Well, I'm exaggerating, but that's the biggest trouble because, and certainly from a tax point of view, if there is an inquiry or something, we need that data historically to be brought into the new system.
Yep. Andy,
I think it's the same. It's really transition is moving across from the old system to the new. As you know, I know you've got a lot of experience of this, Paul, and it works 99% really well. There's the odd hiccup here and there, but overall, it saves a lot of time. It gets it onto the new system. We all need history because, as you say, John,
so we're mandated for 6 plus the current financial year, aren't we? So yeah.
The other thing I will say is, and this is a bit of a plug for better software. We've recently been dealing with Zoho books. Nothing against you, Zoho. However, this particular client messed up their VATs. Well, they thought they were VAT registered, but they weren't. So we had to redo a load of invoicing, and to actually change the rate was actually they weren't allowed to do it. So we ended up having to get hold of Zoho who had to do it themselves rather than ourselves. Whereas QuickBooks and Xero, who I think the 3 of us would all recommend if you are looking for a software choice, there is cheaper out there, but don't go cheaper.
No. Pay cheap, pay twice.
Yes, absolutely. Because that can be a problem.
Yeah. And in terms of that transitional piece, so we've convinced the business to go cloud. Logical times to shift?
Usually at the end of the year.
Year ends, VAT quarter end of the 2.
Yeah.
And I guess, and hopefully I sing from the same hymn sheet as you as accountants, those 2 are the usual times that everything's been fully reconciled, everything's verified, those control accounts that you spoke about earlier, Andy, have all been checked, and it just makes that transition slicker, smoother, more accurate. And if you're shifting at a definite year end, you can be up and running in your new system in days. Even though your year end might not have been finalised, that transition can happen.
Something else you can do as well is you can get hold of the software earlier to play with it.
Yes.
So sometimes because it's scary to some people. So I think again we would also we can give you demo stuff to play with. You can mess around for a month and do it together just to make you feel comfortable with what's going on.
That's it.
But then the actual transition itself can be, as you rightly say, can be done within a couple of days to a week.
I think, John, you're right. A lot of it is psychological, and it's as we all know, it's just human beings. When something is new, we're a bit not too sure, but it's once they get used to it and they look back and thinking, "Oh, this is great." And I had another client. He wrote out all his invoices, and he was just spending a fortune printing and stationery. I said, "There's other ways. Have you considered Xero?" Initial sort of, I'm not too sure. But once he started, he never looked back and said it was the best thing he's ever did.
And when clients agree to that transition, do you put them into let's call it the accounting software in standalone and allow them the rest, or do you try and encourage your clients to, let's say, go both instead of dipping the toe in the water? Do you guys try and say, actually, if we're going to put in Xero, are we going to put in a Dext, an Apron, a HubDoc, an auto entry at the same time? So actually, when they're getting their head around changing systems, they're not learning one thing and then suddenly having to learn a bolt later on. We're thinking then about process flow.
I think it works both ways, if I'm totally honest. Sometimes it scares them so much that the idea of changing everything at the same time, I would much prefer to at least get them onto the main software. And then some of the bolt-ons, which we all know are really, really handy, but introduce them later. For those that just want to go for it, absolutely encourage them to do it all at the same time. But sometimes you get a bit of there's a lot of things to check.
And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate, because what we've done with some clients for where their accountant holds, if you like, their Xero and has done the cloud accounting piece for the MTD VAT primarily, we've introduced them to the front end, the OCR tech, so the Dext and Apron to name 2, and then the accountants connected it later. So we've given them what would be their core tool. And then actually we've transitioned because their invoicing they were doing, whether it was Word or something, they've got some system in place.
Yeah.
So we kind of put in the system that's completely new that they're going to pick up and manage. Then it was about introducing how do you invoice out the system, and the accountant still does their bits. And then actually what happened is instead of it becoming a bookkeeping role for the accountant or us as an outsourced bookkeeping firm, the client realised actually that they could do it all and it wasn't scary. So yes, whilst we lost a bookkeeping job that we thought we were going to get, it's doing right by the client. And it is, I think you said it, it's knowing the client and where are they on that. I'm going to call it a technical journey rather than just an accounting journey.
There's a play, it's a selling technique. So probably I'm going to say this, but the way that we will do this is we will actually start off by saying, you can do this yourself.
Yes.
And then we run through and say, but obviously, if you prefer to spend your time doing something which is better for your business, we can obviously take that off of you and then offer them a pricing moment for doing that.
Yeah.
And it makes them feel that you're not hard selling them.
That's the approach to trade.
Yeah.
That's how I grew my bookkeeping business.
Yeah.
I originally started solely to do implementation, training and support, and they were going to manage their own. And it was only when you then got into the training with them and they suddenly went, not quite so sure I want to do this.
Yeah.
Which bits can I do? And then you start saying, well, actually, you raise your invoices because by the time you've emailed me to tell me what to put on an invoice, you've done it yourself. Yeah. And if you capture the data, we can pick up the rest. But it is sell it that they can do it themselves first.
It's like with this client that I mentioned earlier where it was handwriting all the invoices, showed them Xero, liked it. And then it's really knowing your client and knowing and just doing it sort of bit by bit.
Yeah.
Because we started off initially, he would raise the sales invoices, we would deal with the purchase invoices. And then as he got more proficient in using Xero, he then started taking on the invoices and putting them onto the system, etc. And it's just, gauging time because some will say, I'll go all in, I'll do the whole lot. Yeah. And then others, you just build up gradually. And it's once they got the confidence, I never look back.
Yeah. And I think if businesses are going to do it themselves, and I applaud people that want to do that to retain that level of control and knowledge. I would always encourage them. And yes, it may seem a bit salesy. Get some training either from your accountant or a third party trainer so that data goes in tangibly, accurately, and the outputs then make sense.
Yeah. We've got a property company that went onto Xero 3 years ago and refused to have any training. And we're in year 3 and it's just as if we'd still got manual records. Yeah. It's not benefited them at all because they were not prepared to actually go through that process. And so we can say great things. We all know how good it is, but you've got to know what you're doing with it.
Yeah. Unless that added rubbish in.
Yep.
And then we go back to where we started. If it's rubbish, you can't really advise.
No.
It's making sure the correct processes are in place. Yeah. The information entered is correct that you can then make. Yeah.
Someone used an analogy with me when we were talking about the taking a training package was actually, I'm going to take the training because if I'm not a mechanic, am I going to suddenly take my engine apart and put it back together and expect it to run the way it should? Yeah. And it's the same with the account. Either put people in post, whether that's internally or on an outsourced basis or your accountant is doing it, to get it done right first time. And yes, there's a cost, but you will more than get that back in terms of quality of data, time relieved, but actually the tax savings that suddenly then affords you because the accountant's not going to go and rectify things makes a big difference.
But we'll all have to go back. It's what's the business owner aims and goals. Because really, do you want a business owner to spend an hour on bookkeeping when they could be out networking or gaining more business? Yeah. And it's just getting that balance right.
Yeah. So in terms of the benefits of cloud, I think we're all very much on the same page around embrace it. Yeah. Try not to resist it. And there are things coming down the line making it actually difficult for it, which means you're going to have to embrace it anyway. Yeah. Or if you don't, it's going to cause you even more grief. So actually, cloud accounting as a technology and as a process and as a system is absolutely going to improve your business and the way that you can manage your business.
Thanks for listening to Giving You More Than Numbers. Subscribe for more business insights from Team Cass.